Hello everybody. In this video I'm going to show you how to name molecular compounds. Okay, this is going to be a slightly different method than what we were using for naming ionic compounds. Okay, this is going to seem pretty easy, and it is pretty easy. The difficulty is going to come when you're trying to distinguish between ionic and molecular compounds. Okay, first off, let's just go through the prefixes that we're going to be using when we're dealing with molecular compounds. If there's one element in a molecule, we would say that was mono. 2 is di. 3 is tri for the prefix. 4 is tetra. Okay, tetra. 5 is penta. Okay. 6 is hexa. 7 is hepta. 8 is octa. 9 is nano. Or nona, sorry, nona. And 10 is deca. Okay, we won't really be using the big numbers very often. Mostly it's going to be mono and di and tri and tetra, maybe penta, maybe hexa, maybe octa. Anyhow, let's move on. I think the best way to learn how to name compounds is just to jump in to some examples, and then we can go through some other examples. Okay, let's start with these first. All right, this is on the next page. So when I'm naming this first one, CCl4, I'm just going to start by saying carbon. I'm not going to say monocarbon. There's no need to say mono for the first element. Okay, so I'm just going to say carbon, and now there are 4 chlorines there, so I'm going to call this tetrachloride. Carbon tetrachloride. What about the next one? Okay, B is boron. I'm not going to say monoboron. I'm just going to say boron. And there are 3 chlorines there, so trichloride. So just like with ionic compounds, we're still naming the second name ends with ide. Okay, IDE. All right, let's try the next one. All right, we've got sulfur, hexa, fluoride. Okay, 6 hexafluoride. All right, next one. Now we have 2 nitrogens and 4 oxygens. Okay. All right, so I'm going to name this dinitrogen. And now this is going to be tetra, but I'm not going to say tetraoxide. When you have 2 vowels together, we're just going to go with tetroxide. Okay? All right. And then the last one, I have nitrogen. And now I do need to point out that we only have 1 oxygen there. Okay, I can't just call this nitrogen oxide. I have to point out that there is only 1 oxygen there. I mean, look at the previous one where we had 2 nitrogens and 4 oxygens. We can't just call that nitrogen oxide. All right. Now here we've got the same elements but a very different molecule. So I need to point out that I only have 1 oxygen. That's going to be nitrogen monoxide. not monooxide, but monoxide. Two vowels put together. We're just going to go with the oxide, okay? What if that was NO2? Then that would be nitrogen dioxide. What if that was 2 nitrogens and 3 oxygens? Then that would be dinitrogen trioxide, dinitrogen trioxide. All right, let's try this in reverse now. So I'm given the name dinitrogen monoxide. All right, well, it's a fancy way of saying water, okay? Dihydrogen monoxide. Dihydrogen, 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen. What about phosphorus pentachloride? Phosphorus pentachloride. Okay. What about sulfur trioxide? SO3. All right, guys, now I really need your attention because by now you're thinking, oh, this is simple. That's easy. No problem. Okay, and you're right. It is easy. But what if we were to write the formula for the sulfite ion? Okay, sulfite ion is SO3, 2 minus charge. Sulfite ion. Okay, you have to indicate the charge if it's an ion. All right, this is sulfur trioxide, SO3. But if that SO3 has a 2 minus charge, that is a polyatomic ion, and that is called a sulfite ion. So I just wanted to point that out. All right. What about sulfur dichloride? All right. Sulfur, chlorine, 2. Sulfur dichloride. Okay. You can make a note here that we're not going to be naming acids. So when I assign the homework to you, if you run across an acid, just ignore it, okay? There are some acid names that are sprinkled throughout the homework, so just ignore it if it says acid. Okay, so that takes us through a quick introduction on naming molecular compounds. Let's go to the homework now, and I can go through some of those with you. So this will be in a separate video. All right, so good luck, everybody. I know that this is pretty simple, but I think you're going to see what I mean when this can get kind of tricky in the next video. Okay.